like, the biggest example I can think of a lip singing cast that just totally tanked a movie musical was Repo the Genetic Opera. Very, very bizarre musical, kind of more like a rock opera type deal. Genetic opera would kind of imply that it's operatic. Well, it's only operatic in that there's very little lines of dialogue. The singers aren't actually operatic. And the big thing that killed that movie, besides Lionsgate, the big thing that killed that movie was the fact that they were lip singing the entire time. And it came off as phony, and it bred bad acting, and there was just nothing good came of having the actors lip sync. And I'm really wondering why directors even have them lip sync to begin with. Why don't you just tell them, just sing along with the track like others have done, and it works really well, because we can also tell instantly right off the bat, even if you're not a singer, you can tell when someone's lip singing. It's just obvious. You can see the throat, you can see their breathing, and we can tell right away. And that just takes us out of it like that. And then we know that they're lip singing, and then, oh my God, we know they're singing, and this is a song because we're watching a musical, and oh my God, isn't this kind of stupid? It just all snowballs into this just huge problem. And so really, the first thing I look for with movie musicals is whether or not they actually sing. And with Phantom of the Opera, I believe they were singing along with the track. And, they actually had singing in, with, like, the dialogue. And they rearranged some things in the show, which I completely agreed with. In the movie, the chandelier crashes at the end, and in the stage show, the chandelier actually crashes at the end of Act 1. And I've seen both, and because the crashing of the chandelier is incredibly dramatic. Putting that at the end lent itself much more to the big dramatic, climactic gesture than at kind of, halftime for the show on Broadway. And of course, on Broadway, you had the unfortunate side effect of during intermission, because, they couldn't just leave the chandelier on the stage. They had to bring it back up, so you got to see it be lifted back up into place, which kind of took the edge off of, having it fall in the first place. Kind of hearing a little whir, and then it goes back up to its spot, kind of took off the dramatic edge. But the choices that Phantom of the Opera made is just, they were either equal to or better than the stage musical, and that's really hard to do. So Phantom of the Opera was a big step in the right direction for movie musicals, being faithful enough to the original material so that, it's not something completely different, and yet making these changes that lend itself more to film. The Point of No Return number is a great example of that. They're almost completely different in the stage and movie versions, but the movie version is so much more, cinematic, which is kind of like, oh, well, duh, of course it's going to be more cinematic. But not every movie musical has tried, to make things more cinematic. Like The Producers that came out pretty recently, in the last, what was it, a couple of years? The Producers, Matthew Broderick, Nathan Lane. It was, the movie with Gene Wilder, and then it was turned into a stage musical, and then they made the movie musical. And Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane had done, the Broadway version, and they did this, and they basically just kind of filmed a stage performance and put it on screen. The sets looked like they were for stage, the acting was like it was for stage, so, whoa. Everything was kind of geared towards the stage. The director and the people involved didn't take the time to kind of tailor it more for the cinematic vision that it needs for a movie musical. So that was way too much musical and not enough movie. That was kind of a misstep, really. We kind of need a mulligan on that one. Because The Producers, it just... They might as well have filmed a stage performance and just, released it and been like, hey, that would have been so much better. But to try to pass it off as a movie did not work in the slightest, and that's probably why not many people saw it, and even fewer people liked it. And then you also have, kind of the oddballs, like the experimental ones, like Nightmare Before Christmas. Nightmare Before Christmas was, directed by Tim Burton, came out in like 93, so this was kind of before the rebirth of musicals, and yet it still managed to try a whole lot of different things. Directed by Tim Burton, it was stop animation, it's about the king of Halloween Town, kind of wanders into Christmas Town, and then and then he kind of falls in love with Christmas and tries to kind of take over Christmas. And it was composed by Danny Elfman. And it's beautiful. Like, it's so unbelievably gorgeous. For this stop animation, kind of meant as a family film, but a little bit dark, because, it's Tim Burton and he has a style. And yet, I would totally show it to my kids if I ever planned on having them. Because it's such a beautiful story, and the music is gorgeous, and because it's animation, we kind of automatically accept singing with animation. I think, Disney has really done that to us. If it's animated and they sing, nothing wrong with that. We totally just kind of give an automatic green light to that. And with Nightmare, I mean, that really just nailed the movie musical aspect right on the head. Like, it was pretty much split kind of right down the middle. Because you had, these big numbers, and then you had this very, very gorgeous cinematic style. And it was just a lovely, lovely blend. And for 1993, it looked gorgeous. Actually, now it looks gorgeous. The stop animation is still beautiful. Now, what kind of sucks, though, is that, it came out in 1993. So it was nominated for Best Animation at the Oscars, but 1993 was also the year that Beauty and the Beast came out, so that was kind of, over before it began. And that really breaks my heart, because Nightmare Before Christmas deserves more recognition. I mean, now it's kind of like hot topic fodder, and people, buy shirts with Jack Skellington, the main character, on it without even knowing who he is. But really, when you get down to it, it is a beautiful story that is beautifully told with absolutely beautiful music. It is a wonderful, wonderful movie musical that's one of the very true, family films. Like, everybody can enjoy it, as opposed to a family film that's really just a kid's film that the adults have to sit through. And teenagers would love it. It's probably the most all-encompassing movie musical that can just kind of please everybody, provided, you're not turned off by slightly dark things happening. And that is A Nightmare Before Christmas. And let's see, do we have any more movie musicals to talk about? I mean, you have Grease and you have West Side Story, but, we kind of all know the story behind those two movies. And so, really, what time is it? Oh, I need to go to a break. And when we come back, what are we talking about? Oh, when we come back, we are going to talk about whether or not a certain type of movie really does more harm than good in terms of children and what they absorb. So we're going to talk about that when we come back in just a few minutes. My name is Brittany, this is The Breakdown, and these are the promos.
Tune in to The Jay Spears Show with plenty of talk and plenty